All right, we are going to take a look at this jQuery tabbed panel. And these are used to display, you can use them to display different sections of a page or completely different content. And by default, when this loads, there is going to be one of the panels open. And that is coded in jQuery, and we'll take a look at that in a second. In our HTML, there's a couple things that you need to note. First, we have an unordered list with a class set to tab, and within each line, we have internal links. And these links, this is what is actually creating the tabs. And so clicking on the tab is basically selecting the internal link and going to the different sections of the page. Now, you could set this up to go to completely different pages. It just depends on how much content you have to display. But this is using IDs. And then we've got the internal link to the ID. We have div tags here, but you would not have to use divs. You could use article or section or a different element. Okay, in this case, we've just got it divided up by division. The CSS, there is nothing new. The basic is just formatting the page, and the jQuery tabbed panel is basically focusing on the tab class, the unordered list, and then the lines and the anchors within that list. And there is nothing in here that you haven't already used. And that brings me over to the jQuery. And I did put quite a few comments in here, and there's additional comments that are in the lecture because jQuery is a library and it's a little higher level than JavaScript. So sometimes it is hard to follow what jQuery is doing because for each command, there are several commands that are kind of running in the background. But we all know that jQuery, it won't run through your code until the page is loaded. And then what it's doing is it's looking at the unordered list and the tab class. So going back over here, it's looking at this, and then each is going to process each one of these lines. Okay, so for each one of those lines, it's going to be running through all of this code. And it's creating an active variable, a content variable, and a links variable. So this .find A is going to be retrieving these anchors that are inside this unordered list. And it's doing that so it can figure out which one was selected. And if nothing was selected, what do I display? Okay, that's what it's trying to do. And so you can see it starts trying to do that in the next couple of lines. So we've got an active variable that we are setting equal to links.filter. So links right now has three things in it. Okay, it's got those three anchors, right? Tab 1, tab 2, tab 3. So which one should I pick is basically what links.filter is trying to figure out. So the filter method is going to retrieve an element that matches a particular criteria. So what it's trying to do is check to see if the user has selected tab 1, 2, or 3. Okay, and so it's looking at the three tabs. It's trying to figure out which one they selected. And if it does not find a match, okay, that's where the OR comes into place. If it doesn't find a match, then it's just going to subscript in two links, which contains, again, tab 1, 2, and 3. and it's going to grab tab 1. Okay, so when the page first loads, nothing is selected, and it has grabbed tab 1. Okay, and so it then makes that tab the active class. It uses add class and it adds active to it. That is why when this first loads, Henley is active. If we were to select a different tab, okay, then when it comes down here and does the filter, it will see that tab 2 is now selected. Okay, so it doesn't even get into the OR. We've got tab 2 selected, that becomes active, and then we add the active class to it. So once it figures out which tab is selected, then it sets content equal to active sub0 dot hash. And we already know that this is now going to look for that hashtag portion, and it's going to retrieve what follows. So now if we click on tab 2, it's retrieving tab 2. The first time it runs through here, it's tab 1, okay, etc. The remaining content, so links dot not active, we want to hide them. So for each one of the remaining, we hide it, because in this case, totally impossible to have all of them open. Okay, so if you select one, the other two have to be hidden. Then we have event handler that we bind to each of the anchors. And you'll notice that we're passing along the event object. And first thing that we do is we remove the active class from the old tab and we hide the content. And then you'll notice that we are updating the variables. So the current one becomes active. The current tab becomes content. So if we had selected tab 2, that becomes active. And the portion after the hash goes into the content. Then we add the active class to it and we show it. Prevent default is going to prevent the default action on the anchor and on the other panels. So that's basically what's going on. And the book example is similar to this one. The code is very similar. And I think what you have to remember with the jQuery is that you're working at a little higher level. So some of it's pretty obvious, showing and hiding, and then some of it is a little less obvious.